Hey, what's up guys? This is Nisi of Spoil Me Nisi, back with another video. So today I am giving my reaction to the show Good Girls, season 4, episode 1, which just premiered on Sunday at 10 o'clock. Now, as you know from previous videos, that I binge watched season 1 through 3 on Netflix last month so that I can stay up with the show when it comes out this month. So if you haven't already gotten into the show, and if you have gotten into the show but haven't had the chance to watch this episode yet, just keep in mind that as always, this video will have spoilers. So let's get into it. So I'm a big fan of crime shows and movies. While in real life, I'm against crime. I do like seeing, crime-driven movies like the show Power, The Sopranos, Casino, and I actually love those like mafia movies and stuff like that. That's actually that and comedy. Those are my favorite genres of movie. But anyway, so while I'm not a fan of those things in real life, I do like them being played out on film because they're action-packed. But one thing I've noticed about myself is I have a tendency to root for the main character. Like, for example, in the show Power, Ghost and Tommy, they're monsters. Morally speaking, monsters. But I root for them because usually those main characters that do all of these things have a backstory. And those backstories typically tug at my heartstrings a little bit. So I find myself really rooting for them. This show is different because it's both of my favorite genres in one. It's comedy and it's a crime series. But I find myself really not liking the main characters, and I'm not rooting for them. I'm actually rooting for the feds. And I think that the feds so far in the show are doing a really poor job. So let's get started on the first person in the show. We have Annie. In previous videos, I have been pretty hard on her character because I think that she's the most unstable and craziest one out of all three of these women. She almost got them in trouble quite a few times, and she kind of thinks like a child a little bit. But I do like where her character is starting off in this season. She's still seeing the child psychologist. She hasn't changed over to go to a regular adult one because he and her have a lot of chemistry together, and he's a good fit for her. Now I know from like Twitter and on social media, I see a lot of people like really standing for the whole Beth and Rio thing, like, oh, they need to get together, blah blah blah. I don't like them together. Rio was weird, and Beth, I can't stand Beth. But one of the couples that I'm really rooting for on this show is Annie and her therapist and her psychologist. Now, while they're not a couple, I feel like they do have a lot of chemistry, a lot of sexual chemistry between each other. And I think that he would bring a lot of stability to her life. At this point, she has a daughter that is transitioning into a boy, and her daughter is kind of keeping her out the loop. It's obvious that it almost seems like her daughter doesn't want her around. Now, while you can't blame her kid because Annie has made a lot of mistakes in previous seasons by putting, her need for crime and this and that before her daughter and before things that mattered, you can really understand. I can't blame her daughter for feeling the way that she does. But I don't think that Annie is handling it well. So I think that, her seeing the therapist is a good thing. And I think that, if they actually dated, which I believe the show is going to lead up to, that can certainly provide some stability to Annie's life. So I'm actually rooting for that and rooting for her to go to jail. I'm rooting for both. So next we have Ruby. Ruby was once my favorite character on the show. But now I like her the least of all the characters because she not only did she destroy her own life, but she also destroyed her husband's life right along with hers. And I don't think that he deserved it. I like her husband. He's a good man. He had a lot going for himself, was following his dreams, and her actions took all of his dreams right from below her feet. And I don't even think Ruby seems that sorry about it. So I'm not a big fan of her character. But this season is starting out with, her son having some issues in school. Now, if you remember last season, her daughter was the one having the issues. We found out that her daughter's a thief. And her daughter is quite disrespectful, but that's a whole other story. But her son, he has a fetish with penises. He's drawing penises everywhere. And he's acting out in class as like a class clown. And in my opinion, that seems pretty normal. I mean, at least the kid is not committing crimes, and at least like his sister and his mom and his daddy. And at least the kid is not bullying people. I think that he's acting like, like a little boy. But one thing I like about Ruby's storyline so far in the show from this episode, I feel like they're tackling the issue with these teachers pretty much trying to label these really young kids from a young age. I liked Ruby's husband's take on the teacher wanting to label her son ADHD all because he made fart noises in class and drew a couple penises. Who cares? I know adult men who draw penises and make fart noises. Like, you don't have to label people because of that. And he's a kid. He's 6 years old, or 6 or 7, one of the two. So Ruby entertained what the teacher said, and she was ready to get the kid studied and get him labeled up real quick. And her husband was like, no, he doesn't want his son labeled from such a young age. He took the initiative and went to the school and had the kid's class changed. They did have the kid see someone and found out that he is a genius. So it's like, okay, the kid doesn't have ADHD. He's just really smart and the class is boring to him and he's acting out. I mean, who cares? He's not hurting anybody. But I do like that they're tackling on that issue in the show, because that does happen quite often, where, teachers don't necessarily make the right choices and do try to label these kids when the kids are just being kids, Now, whether or not the teacher did this to Ruby's child because he's black, I don't know. I think that if I commented on that particular thing, that would divert this video and cause another discussion that I don't really know if I want to have, at least not right now. But yeah, I do like how the show is like subtly shedding light on those issues, and I do like how Ruby's husband handled it. Me personally, as I said in previous videos, my hope for Ruby is that she goes to jail right along with Beth and Annie. And I really hope that her husband Stan doesn't end up going down. I really hope that he gets his job back as a police officer, because even though he's gone to the darker side now of doing things that aren't necessarily right at this point, I do feel like all of it is her fault, and that's the reason why I like her least in this movie, because even though you don't like to make things about race, you can't help but look at Ruby and what she represents in the show, being the only black woman in the show, and literally sabotaged her husband, who came from like nothing, made himself into something, and she pulled the rug from underneath his feet and brought him right back down to her level. So yeah, so that's my hopes for her character, but we'll see what happens in the next episodes to come. Next we have Beth. Now, as I have described previously, she is my least favorite character of the show, and she's already starting off this episode with the bull crap. Can't stand her. I don't know why people are so obsessed with Beth and Rio. Me personally, I don't care. I still believe that Rio has some ties to being an informant with the FBI or something, because he's just a little bit too mysterious. He gets away with stuff, and I don't know, because of how last season started, I'm interested to see what the writers do with Rio's character. I think that Beth is playing herself with him, but that's good enough for her. But I really cannot stand Beth. And I don't want to see Rio and Beth together. I think that she's like bored. She's bored and she destroyed her life for no reason. Yeah, I get it. Her husband made some bad choices about money, but they still weren't in a position that would make me understand why she chose that life. And even when all the girls had an out where they would never have to see this monster Rio ever again, Beth single-handedly pulled them back into it because she wanted some excitement. So yeah, I can't with them, and I don't want to see Beth and Rio together. I don't know why women like love the thought of them together so much. It's awful. Now that the other FBI agent, or detective, sorry, the other detective has died or gotten killed by Rio's crew. We have this new girl, and I'm rooting for her so much. This episode, she ends up buying one of the hot tubs from Beth, and I'm just like, yes, like she's getting closer. But then you find out later on that the government wants her to stop going for Beth, and they're actually going for Beth's husband, Dean. And it's like, why? It seems like this show was really showing the privilege that Beth has. She is like the leader of this whole crime team. She has all the ideas. She is literally the queen pin, and everybody else around her is going down but her. So much so that now her husband's even going down. Like, the government has pictures of him ready to pin everything on him, not her. And it's just like, what? Like, when the episode ended and they revealed that, I'm just like, but how? Like, first Ruby's husband goes down for her, and then now her husband, everybody else's kids are having a hard time. Everybody, like Ruby's family is falling apart, and Annie's family is falling apart. Beth's husband is about to go down. Meanwhile, Beth is here making cookies, still going to adult mommy yoga and living this fairy tale life while she's the leader of all of this, and everyone around her is going down. And I think that's what I like the least about Beth. And I am interested to see where the writers of the show go with her character, because just like I feel there's more to Rio's character than what meets the eye, I think there's more to Beth's, because there's no way that that's gonna happen. But one thing I know without a shadow of a doubt is that I believe Ruby is gonna go down more, because Beth, she looks out for herself and for her sister. In previous episodes that you've seen, Ruby you can kind of tell that the law is going to come down on Ruby the most. One can say it's because she's a black lady, who knows, but personally I think it's because she's stupid, and she had a couple of outs and didn't take them because she was running after Beth's crazy butt, and I think it's all going to come back to haunt Ruby. But I cannot stand Beth. And now her husband might spend the rest of his life in jail, and he's not even the one they should be looking for. So I don't know. The show is just starting out with the nonsense, but I'm here for it. And then, you have the hitman. Beth, she's tried to kill Rio like so many times. None of it worked. But now she hired a hitman. She paid him. He's dragging his feet. And then he lets her know, like, hey, I have a crush on you. I want to go out to dinner. Well, she can't say no to him because he's a hitman. Who knows? Maybe he'll kill her. I don't know. But now that he's paid her to kill someone, she kind of has to do whatever he wants her to do. But this could actually work out for her. For Beth, the little criminal that she is, it can work out for her, and she may end up having to just take one for the team. If she goes out with him, won't be the first time she slept with somebody other than her husband, which he might deserve because he cheated on her with over 4 women, but that's another story. But considering they're dealing with some dangerous guys, it might work out in their benefit to have their own little, henchmen, or, they need a muscle, because Ruby is not a muscle. And excuse the background noise, my kids are really extra. Ruby is not a muscle. Her husband is no longer a cop. He's no help. Annie is not a muscle. Beth is not a muscle. So this might work out for her. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's my take on this episode. I am looking forward to the next one. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button, because I do drop videos quite often, and I want you to know when I drop it so that you can watch and be entertained. If you have any comments, please share. I would love to converse about this. But until then, just like Show Enough said it on the screen, sayonara. Peace.